well you do in Marvel Rivals is broken down into 4 key components. This is broken down into your aim, which a lot of people tend to talk about because you've got your aim settings videos, you've got your videos on how to improve your aim. We've also got teamwork, which cannot really be taught, let's be honest. This is down to team synergy and how well you can communicate with your team. Then we also do have positioning and we have movement. Now, people don't talk about these two enough, and that is what this video is going to cover in depth. So let's get into the range DPS first and how you want to position yourself as a range DPS within Marvel Rivals. Here are all of our range DPS options. Some of them are pseudo, some of them are actual good range DPSs within the game. Let's add in our map now, which is the Weisgard Path map. It kind of similarly resembles this. The enemy spawns here. We've got a bridge going across, bit of high ground here, bit of high ground here, and some high ground at the back here as well. Now, what we're going to do is take one of our heroes, and we'll just take Hela, for example, because she's the first option. And what we have is our game set up whilst you're attacking an enemy spawn, and it is a convoy map, so the convoy will be here somewhere and they're pushing down past your team. So let's add in the teams, and this is our team, which has got 2 vanguards, a DPS, a support, and another support, and their team can be comprised of whatever they want, doesn't really matter whatsoever here. And what we're trying to do as a range DPS, and we're focusing on our own character at the moment, so whilst your team's doing their thing, what you want to be doing is obviously outputting damage to this team from range. So you can either be shooting around their team, you could be shooting through your team into their team, whatever you're doing, you're basically in the back line. Now, in terms of your position as a range DPS, you always want to take high ground. That's the most important thing. You always want to have great line of sight, and you always want to be outputting the most amount of damage as possible. So high ground options are either right here. Now, on this bridge, the enemy team have the best line of sight on you as possible, so that's probably not the best place to be. Even though you have great line of sight, you can attack them, it's still not the best place to be. Then you can stand on this side, which is a good option. You could stand here and fire shots from here, or you could stand here and fire shots from here, but you don't actually have good line of sight on this side if you know the map well whatsoever. So the best place to actually be on this map is in this piece of high ground right here. Now, I'll show you where this exactly is on the actual map in just a moment, but this is exactly where you want to be, in the backline still, but on the high ground still. Now, anywhere kind of roughly in this area is a good place to be, so you've got good line of sight, and I think this is the perfect spot personally. Or here, it doesn't really matter. This is kind of both a really good angle to have on the enemy team. So if you are firing at the enemy team, you've got this angle here, and you can also, like I said, if you're standing here, you can also fire from there as well. So this is a really good angle. But what you also need to be happening at the same time as you're doing this is that this support down here, this support also needs to come with you and support you, so they can be taking this high ground and be like a range support kind of character. So let's say, for example, this could be a rocket that's firing shots as well whilst providing you heals, and they're also dealing damage, or it could be Adam Warlock or something of that nature, but they want to be also healing you up here. So that is something that's super important, but we're mainly focusing on what we're doing as the range DPS, which is gaining some really good high ground, is you're actually spotting for enemy dives. So let's say this player or this player here is looking to dive into your backline and take out this support right here. That is what you're aiming to look out for. So not only are you putting damage down this range, you're also looking to defend your team at the same time, because this DPS can help this support for sure. So this DPS can help him, but this DPS's main job is to output the damage down this direction. So this DPS wants to focus his damage in this direction here, whilst you have fantastic line of sight over the whole entire fight. So you've pretty much got oversight here. Now, obviously your support can obviously help this dive as well by outputting some damage too, but the main thing and the main job for you to do here is have oversight of both teams. And essentially you want to take out any players you can, getting some picks here, but also defending your teams from this direction here. And mainly it's going to be these 2 players you need to try and defend, which is the DPS and the support. The Vanguard should have enough health to sustain this push in the front themselves. Now this can also work from behind as well, bit more difficult though, because again you might not be able to spot some flying dives from being so far back in your team, but again your ideal situation is to have as much vision as possible whilst also taking cover as well, of course, because you do want to see absolutely everything in this cone here. So again, you want to be able to spot if a Spider-Man's flanking in this way, or if a Black Panther's coming in this direction. You want to be the player that can spot all this stuff and basically output that damage to stop them doing it. And most ranged DPS players are able to kill these kind of characters pretty easily. So for example, if we're playing ranged DPS here, you could take this angle here, but this cover can easily be destroyed, as you can see. So that doesn't really make any sense. So realistically, where you want to be is behind this wall here. And now you can fire shots freely, deal damage, obviously all that good stuff. This wall's breakable, this ground's breakable, so you don't really want to be standing anywhere where things can be destroyed. Because as a ranged DPS, you want to always have your line of sight and you don't want to lose your high ground. So first of all, you can use this kind of cover, which is low ground cover and deals as much damage as you can, and only half of your body is going to be hittable. So again, you're using cover to your advantage to cover yourself whilst you're dealing your damage here. Now another place to be is obviously up here, which you need to use your teleport ability for, as we mentioned previously in this video. And obviously now again, you've got some solid cover, and you've also got some kind of unsolid cover, so you can stay behind this wall here, deal your damage, dip right here. You can basically be a completely invisible target to anyone that's coming from that range right here, and you can keep dealing damage from here, or you could be behind this cover once again, or this cover again, but all of these can be destroyed. So realistically, you want to be in the very edges, so this one would be the best piece of cover that you could use here. And the convoy is going to make its way down this part of the map. Now, where do you stand? You stand up here, which means you're going to get a good angle. And again, you need to use your ability here. And this covers cannot be destroyed, so you can take a good behind the team angle here, or you can stand up on that section right there as well. So that's another good place to stand. And like I said, most of the ranged DPS heroes have this kind of ability to get you to slightly higher ground, and some of them are not great at that. This one is a destroyable high ground, so that's again something you need to be careful of, and one that I would not recommend standing on for too long unless you're inside here. Now this is the best angle you can have. Now destroy the cover yourself, get the right angles, take cover behind these two walls, and basically that is the best way to do this. Now obviously this wall could be destroyed, but this part of the wall here is not destroyable, so you actually get a good angle here. Then the convoy is going to move through this section here, and again you want to get the best cover possible. So this cover is really good. The only issue is you can get flanked from this angle here, obviously. So if you know most of the teams in this direction, then you can use this piece of cover. And this doesn't really mean that you need to be a ranged DPS here. You can actually be a lot of other heroes as well, but ranged DPS works perfect at this range where you're outputting damage, you've got really good cover, and you're just covering yourself. Now you can also be up here too, which again you need to use your flight and gain yourself some high ground. So this is how you're going to be using your ranged DPS hero in the middle of a game. Now you can also use this wall still as cover to some extent if you stay at this angle. Obviously you've got this destroyable cover, obviously. Now as a ranged DPS, you want to have good pieces of cover, and this is probably not the best angle to shoot from. You want to be shooting from the right hand side, but in this instance it's pretty difficult to do that because obviously you want to be firing in this angle. Then what you can do is you can bubble up and actually get this high ground here, which is pretty insane. But as you can see here, you can do a ton of damage from this angle here, and you can also do damage from behind this cover. Namor uses his bubble to get to these high grounds, as I've mentioned. And you kind of just want to pick the best high ground with good line of sight. Now, in this instance, what we're using is this ridge line here as our cover. So if we stand back enough, no one's going to be able to hit us if they're on the ground, obviously. And we can fire shots, and only our head should be visible from this angle. So that's going to be very hard to hit whilst we're firing shots down range. Now, as a ranged DPS, this is probably one of the toughest sections of the map, and there's literally nothing here that's going to kind of save you that much. And some or most maps actually have this part where it's a convoy and it's difficult to be in that section. So if you're trying to like kind of use this cover here, you can use the tree a little bit to cover you at the same time. that's quite good, but you're very close range here. You're not working as range DPS. You're pretty much at point blank range at this point. You're just as a regular DPS, but you've got ranged attacks. And you can also kind of take a position up through here, but again, you're going to get enemies coming through this section, enemies coming from here, so that's probably not a really good position to take up as a ranged DPS hero. And the only other place you could be at this point in time is up here, but all this cover can be destroyed, so you can use this cover for a short period of time. Next, the convoy will be moving through here, and the best position to take up as your ranged DPS hero is up on this section here. Now, obviously you can go down the steps, so what you want to do is kind of be on the steps in the first place, fire your shots down range, and you can put your squids down if you're Namor, whatever it is. Other heroes have different abilities. And this is not a Namor guide, this is just a ranged DPS guide. So again, you've got good solid cover right here to take, and you can fire your shots and make yourself a hard target to hit. Again, you're using this ridge line. And now let's pick your favorite Vanguard combo, which right now is Magneto paired with Doctor Strange. Now, this is the simplest one to understand, so we will get into this one first, but there's another combos that also work extremely well as well, and the different styles of tanking are completely different when it comes to which hero you want to pick, but they both kind of work in a similar way. So first of all, we're going to add in the rest of your team. So we're going to add in 2 strategists and 2 more DPS, obviously, to fill up your team here. And this is not always how you're going to be set up, but we're mainly focusing on the tanks here, so we don't really care too much. So the way Doctor Strange and Magneto usually set up is that they both hold the front line. This is the convoy here. The enemy team's right here. They're going to be attacking down this direction. And you usually have a shield set up in front of Magneto and a shield set up in front of Doctor Strange. And that is the usual setup, and usually what you would like to do as both of these heroes is push forward in a forward direction, and this is called displacement, because you're trying to not give the enemy any space here, because as they get space, so let's say this space gets wider here, this space gets even bigger, then they're going to have more ability to push and move the objective, and you don't want that. So you want to be moving forward or moving against them at least anyways as these tank heroes. Plus they have a lot more health, so you can take some damage. But now something people don't actually tell you when it comes to using these tanks in particular, Groot's also quite similar, Captain America a little bit similar too, is that even though you've got high HP and you kind of want to hold the front line and you are the cover for your team, essentially that is how this is working out, whilst your DPS is out putting damage and your healers are in the back line kind of healing up your team, you can't just sit there. What you want to do is actually rotate with your partner, especially when it's a double Vanguard setup or a double shield setup. You want to rotate with them, so if you start taking a bit of damage, you dip into cover. So this strategist is now healing Magneto up whilst he's in cover, and this Doctor Strange is holding the front line himself essentially. So obviously he'll move over across a little bit into this position, and now Doctor Strange is holding the front line himself. You'll get some heals off from your support character right here. Magneto moves back into the front line into the fight, and he's holding the line again. Now you don't need to constantly do this. This is just something that when you are low HP, you need to learn how to rotate with your partner in and out of this, and you can do this constantly if you want. But if you're both full health, then obviously you want your 2 heroes on the front line, of course. But like I said, that rotation and positioning is fantastic. Now you don't need to have like the fastest movement or insane anything like that. And not only that, you need to be the main form of attention for these enemy players to want to come and attack, as they're focusing on you whilst your other players are going off and doing other things. So maybe your strategist can go off and pull a flank. Realistically, your DPS, maybe you've got a dive DPS, maybe like a Spider-Man, again can go off and pull up flank. So that's kind of what you're looking for your team to do whilst you're holding the line and you're getting supported. Now one of your supporters do need to stay with the team whilst you're getting healed up, but like I said, the main thing here is that you are the attention, you're pushing it against the fight, and you're the one tanking the most damage. So let's flip the game now, and we're going to be using 2 dive vanguards. Now you can do this formation if you want. This works pretty well if your DPSs are both ranged DPS and they can keep themselves alive. for a good amount of time. So your composition needs to make sense if you're going to do something like this, but it definitely can be done. Now you can obviously have a combination of Hulk with Doctor Strange or Venom with Magneto or whatever it is you want. But let's say you're running 2 dive Vanguards or 2 dive tanks, and they still act like shields. So for very small portions of the game, they can just tank incoming damage because they have high health. So they can just do that. But that is not the main way you're supposed to play these heroes at all. Now the idea here is, again, we want that rotate between your 2 Vanguards. So again, you want to be able to rotate who's low health, who's high health, and who's going to do what. So once we've decided which one of these heroes has got full HP, because the supports are giving them HP from the back, then we're going to say, well, Hulk can dive into the fight. Now the idea of Hulk diving into this fight, and again, this is a dive hero, remember, so keep that in mind. So Hulk's going to dive into this fight, and the idea here is to displace this enemy team. So you want to move this player this direction, this player this direction, this player this direction. So let's say you're diving in and you're focusing this player, which is a strategist within the enemy team. And as you do that, you're going to be dealing damage to him, maybe you deal a bit of damage to him as well. And these 2 players right here, which might be DPS each, or one could be a strategist, one could be a DPS, will try and help their teammate. And as you do that, you're essentially moving the players away from where they want to be. This player will back up and retreat because they're low HP, and maybe this one will too. And that only leaves a couple of players here that are able to push this convoy. So maybe only 2 of them will actually push the convoy itself, but that's a 2v4 situation right here. Now, once you've done your dive in this area, you've dealt some damage, you've obviously took some damage, you've took some attention away from your team, which is the whole point in this, then of course you need to dive straight back into your position, get some heals back from your team, get some support back from your team, and then it's time for Venom's turn to do the exact same thing on the other side. Now, it might not make sense to do this straight away, because if you've already displaced the enemy team, there's no need for Venom to dive in straight away. The only time Venom needs to dive in for his turn is if the formation of this team comes back pretty quickly. So if they get back in their positions pretty quickly, then Venom can dive straight in and do the exact same thing on the other side, and just again be in this position and displace the enemy team once again. And this is how you want to rotate between dive Vanguards. It's a much better way of doing it. You need to be the source of attention in this way, and also you will be taking damage, but you also have good ways and means to get out of the fight, whilst also using cover and other things as well. So here we're spectating like a domination game with Doctor Strange and Magneto in the same team. Like I said, that's that dual combo, as we can see. So Magneto was out putting in shields there, whilst Doctor Strange was dealing some damage, and now they've switched roles instead. So now one of them's putting out shields and the other one's doing the damage. And as you keep switching between these two, you can see that they're basically doing that rotation as we mentioned. So one's behind cover now, which is the Doctor Strange, whilst Magneto puts out the shields. And then again, we're doing the rotation once more. So we're now watching this rotation on the attacking side. And as you can see here, Doctor Strange is out putting his damage, he's doing his melee attack, he's trying to fight the other Doctor Strange. Now Magneto's shielding him, and in between that, he's shielding Magneto. So as you can see here, they're basically rotating who's using the shields. And Magneto's shield does take a little bit longer to recharge, which is the only annoying thing. But as you can see here, they're both taking turns at who's doing damage, who's doing shields. They are doing the shield rotation again. As you can see here, Magneto's using his ult and gets a couple of kills. So there you have perfect use of this Doctor Strange and Magneto combination, which is absolutely ridiculous when it comes to shielding your team in general. As you can see, they've got a Magneto and they've just basically tanked the full ult with the shield. So as you can see here, they're doing extremely well in that rotation between Magneto and Doctor Strange. And these players have clearly played together before. This is the #1 Doctor Strange in the world, and that's who we're spectating. And then obviously his teammate, who's a high ranked, which both of these guys definitely know exactly what they're doing in terms of rotating in and out and pushing that front line as far as possible. This Magneto's had his ult twice, so that tells you how well that they're doing in a short space of time. So what we're going to do now is spectate a top 50 Hulk, and we're going to see how he actually does this in game. Because again, I want to give you good examples of this. So as you can see, he spotted the enemy team on the objective. He's waiting for his team to kind of catch up a little bit. He's in his back lines. He could have made the push himself, but it doesn't make sense. His team were too far away that if he needed to escape, then it didn't really make sense. He wouldn't have got healed up. So now the fight is pretty much at Vanguard range. So you'll be standing right next to his Magneto essentially right now, helping fight in the front line. So there's nothing much too different to being a Magneto or a Doctor Strange right now for this moment. Now he's doing this dive. So now he's going to try and dive into the enemy backline. And he sees this Hulk here as well, bit low HP, trying to do a bit of damage. Again, he's in the front line with his Magneto, dealing the damage from the front. And also tanking damage as well, which he can do. Now he's trying to get picks and trying to figure out how he can dive inside this team. And pretty much he's in the backline now. This is where he is. He's in the backline of this enemy team, doing his dive. He's low HP. He's trying to get to his team now where he can get healed up a little bit. So that is where he's trying to go. And he's now obviously got HP to fight again. So he's obviously trying to figure out a way how to get back into the fight. So low HP now again, waiting for his heals. He's got healed now. Now he's getting back into the fight again. So that is how you kind of want to play a diving Vanguard or a diving shield character, because it's very different to the front line with Doctor Strange and Magneto, but it can be also done. And like I said, now he's trying to pull off some kind of flank slightly. He's behind the enemy teams once again. The other Hulk's kind of focusing him here. He's managed to get his heals off. I don't know who exactly healed him, but he got his heals off. He's in the backline again, and now he's trying to look for a better position, which he's trying to again pull off another backline jump. He's trying to take out this Iron Man, which is a bit difficult to do as Hulk, to be honest. And this is exactly where he should be, taking out this enemy team. And again, he's now done his ultimate, which he's now focusing the Iron Man still. But he's now going to get a complete easy kill on one of the strategist heroes or one of the supports. So the next heroes we want to cover in terms of positioning is the dive heroes. Now we're mainly talking about the actual dive heroes. You can use some of the Vanguards as dive heroes if you really need to, but the main ones we're talking about are ones like Spider-Man, Iron Fist, Black Panther, Psylocke. These are the kind of main ones we're talking about. Magic as well. So let's add in the enemy team and our team, and let's take our main man Spider-Man, who is one of the best dive heroes in the game. Now what you want to be doing as a dive hero, and if your team composition set up right, you'll have a range DPS here, a Vanguard here, a Vanguard here, and they can be doing their shield thing as they usually do. And obviously the enemy team is pushing you. Your job is to flank into this enemy's back line here and take out a player. Now we've obviously discussed this in terms of some of the Vanguards that have dive heroes in them, but it's slightly different for when you're a low HP character. You can't really sustain damage within this fight by yourself. It doesn't really work like that. So what you're looking at is some rogue players essentially. So you're looking at players that are kind of dragging a bit behind. So maybe this character is slightly behind all of its teammates. So maybe these are slightly ahead of this player, and you're going to take a pick on this hero. Then what you're looking to do is, after you pick this hero, you kind of want to take them away from the fight. So for example, Spider-Man has his kind of get over here where he can pull enemies away. So you want to actually take them out of their team. You don't want to be sitting here fighting with him whilst he's in his team's backline. That just makes no sense whatsoever. Whilst you've established the fact that he is on his own, take him out of the fight, take him to a neutral area to fight in, maybe over here somewhere. Now for heroes like Spider-Man and Iron Fist and Black Panther and also Psylocke as well, movement is a huge way to do this. Spider-Man can literally just swing in, grab a player and just take him away. It is that easy. And again, with Iron Fist, he can do the exact same thing. So what you're trying to do is force a player out of their position. And by doing this with some of these characters, the whole point is their movement mechanics are so quick that they can basically get in really fast, deal a bit of damage even, and then get out really fast as well because they're low HP. That's kind of the whole point. Now the main thing what you're trying to do here on this team is apply pressure, because essentially what you've done is you've went in, took one of their players out the game, killed them hopefully over here somewhere, and then you're going to go back in after and do the same again to one of their other heroes. So that is the plan, and you're doing this at a very quick pace. Now, obviously, you're a rogue player. You're kind of doing this off on your own, not too much to the point where you're kind of so far away, but you should be playing for the health packs. Obviously, around the map, there are health packs that you can play for. Obviously, you might want to go in, grab the player, and then fight him over here, deal some damage or kill him, go to the health pack, grab the health pack, and then get back in the fight again. So I know this is a very long-winded way to explain this, but essentially that is how you should be using heroes like Spider-Man, Black Panther, Iron Fist, Magic. Now let's say we are using a different hero now, Wolverine for example. Now Wolverine, Winter Soldier, and Thor all have the ability to essentially grapple a player out of their team. Wolverine's the best at it, but Winter Soldier also has a really good grapple, and Thor can also do it as well with his dash. But what you want to do is actually position yourself behind some cover, and you want to use an off angle where the enemy team cannot see you. So for all of these dive characters, you want to be using off angles all the time. Spider-Man's, you can basically poach yourself up on high ground and stick to walls. So as you're approaching your off angle here, so you're hiding behind this cover, waiting for this enemy team to kind of push down towards your team, and they're kind of focusing on the front line here. Your job is to sneak into the back and steal an enemy player. Now what makes Wolverine different to some of the other heroes is that he actually deals more damage to high HP characters. So let's say this player was a Vanguard and not support, so the other dives don't output that much damage, so they can't really steal a Vanguard at the team. It doesn't really make any sense, but Wolverine can do this. Wolverine can steal a Hulk out the enemy team, take him to a random area on the map, or preferably behind your team's lines, and that's where you want to put them, right in this position right here. So they need to force the objective a bit more with maybe a player down or even 2 players down now at this point. So if you're doing your job correctly, then they have pressure from basically both sides because they're minus a lot of players here, and that is how you want to use dive heroes properly. Now we're spectating a top 50 player when it comes to Spider-Man. And his movement is absolutely insane, by the way, and that is something that all of these heroes, when it comes to dive heroes, need to have, is movement to get in and out of the fight. So please watch tutorials on your favorite hero if it's a dive hero and learn their movement mechanics. I was going to add it into this video, but I thought it would have been way too long to do that. But as you can see here, his positioning is perfect here. So what he's looking to do is be in the back line straight away as soon as the enemy get into the game. Now he's literally got such a good off angle here that no one's even going to be looking up here. Let's be honest, everyone's looking down at the fight. Even at this high level, people are not looking up at this angle. They're focusing on his front line, and now that they've engaged his front line, he's now looking to attack. He's trying to look for a pick. He's trying to look to see who he can pick out of the team, and he wants to focus the supports, and as you can see here, that's what he did. He'd done a little bit of damage. He was there. Now he's looking to go back in again, in and out, constantly in and out. That is what you need to be doing as the support. And again, holding this off angle here, trying to get a pick, trying to steal a player out the enemy team. That is the idea here. Again, using health packs, like I said, that is what you want to be doing, because your healers are not going to be able to track you when you're moving this fast as Spider-Man, or whether you're using Iron Fist. Your healers cannot track that movement whatsoever. Now he's managed to get the Storm kind of in between his team, and again, he knows where the health packs are on this map. And what he's trying to do now is force the enemy team into his team. He's trying to get behind them and kind of clamp them into the fight. So he's basically pushing from the back. He's dealing a little bit of damage, pushing them forward, and he can probably get a pick on this Winter Soldier. I'm not really too sure if that's a Winter Soldier or not. I don't really know what that hero was that was below him. He could have went for that hero, but now he's in the back line again. He managed to get an easy pick kill here, and another one again whilst Magneto's had him shielded up. So what he's doing here, he's diving into the back line, but what's good about this is that they actually need to focus Spider-Man for a couple of seconds. Now, about 3 players came away from the fight there to focus on that Spider-Man because he's being such a nuisance to this team. And what that means is his team can easily push the objective. So I also want to give an example as Wolverine as well. So again, this is another top 50 player, and he's using his dash as movement to get to high ground. Now that's again something you need to know how to use this properly, because he's used it to get to high ground, but he could have used his fearless leap but that has such a long duration to actually refresh that it doesn't make any sense to use that. So he's using the dash instead, which refreshes in about 3 seconds. So he can constantly use that one to get to high ground or position himself better within the map, which is what he's doing. And as you can see here, he's breaking a lot of the random parts of the map as well to gain extra rage as well. So as you can see, his rage meter's going up as he's attacking, and again he's using the health packs a lot as well. So what he's trying to do here is gain health and try to find an off angle on this team, because he has no ranged attacks whatsoever and he can steal this player, which is what he did. So this is what Wolverine's great at. So he's stealing the player, taking him completely away from his team, and he's trying to see if he can get his rage meter built up off the wall there. So he does the standard rage that you've got as part of the ability, and he's trying to just deal loads of damage because he knows his healers are behind him. So basically he's just sitting here outputting damage in the front line with his healers. And now you can see this Moon Knight, and he's going to focus this Moon Knight and basically kill him, because Moon Knight's got no chance against Wolverine at that range. And again, he's getting good picks. So like I said, getting the off angles is the most important, because you'll be finding other players try to do the same thing, which is what he needs to do. And obviously he's fighting this Wolverine quite often as well. But realistically, what you should be doing is aiming for this Doctor Strange, which obviously he's doing right now, but against the whole entire team, which is basically a full team fight at the moment. But what he needs to do is try and get a hero out of here, and he manages to use his ultimate greatly here and gets a triple kill. So the only hero types we missed out were the close to medium range heroes. So most of these are certain strategists or other heroes that only have kind of mid-range capability attacks. Now they do have some other good benefits to using these heroes, but this video is more about positioning, and when it comes to those kind of heroes, you kind of want to position yourself as the centerpiece of the team and basically play off of other heroes in the game. And not only that, you can output damage, you can output heals, but you want to play between the lines and fill in for these heroes if they decide to die or if anything happens to them. That is how you want to use these kind of close to mid-range heroes. So it's pretty straightforward on how to do that in general. Now if you enjoyed this video, it is a long one, but it is an in-depth one, so please subscribe to the channel, and thank you very much for watching.